Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope your day and your week are going well so far. We've got a new day, which of course means a new MLB Player Prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes new opportunities to win some money. And if you've been following the video series lately, we've been winning a pretty good amount of money. The thumbnail didn't give it away. We are on a 15-5 run over our last 4 videos, so a pretty good run here. Let's do a quick recap of how we did last night before we dive into today's video. And like I said, guys, we have been fat and healthy here with our props over the last few videos. Another 3-1 night last night. Really good performance. Again, 15-5 run now over our last 20 props, our last 4 videos. So we've been on the money, man. We've been doing really well. Like I said, we've been eating good. We've been eating real good. If this was 99 Restaurant where the kids eat free after the Red Sox win, I think that's how the promotion goes. The kids would be eating very well if 99 had an offer where, whenever we hit player props, they get a free meal. They've been eating very well. That was probably a shitty joke. Apologies for that. But the moral of the story, guys, is that we have been making a lot of money here. We've been cashing our props, been on the money. Let's see if we can't continue that in today's video. I got 4 props. A little bit of a tricky slate today. I'll be honest, spent over an hour researching. The props were not super kind, but I did manage to find 4 that had pretty decent value. So I'm going to hand those picks out to you guys today. Let's not waste any more time. Let's just dive right in. Jumping right into the outlier screen here, guys. By the way, if you're watching right now, comment caliente down below in the comments. I think we deserve that, right? I mean, 15-5 run. We're now 118-81 on the season. Think about that for a second. 118-81 on the season. That's a pretty incredible record if you think about it. Now, obviously, that's not in units. That's just obviously in props overall. I don't have I'll have to figure out the actual units measurement. It'll be a little bit of effort to go back and do all that, but I'm going to try and figure out what the actual units are. But 118-81, you can go back and watch all the videos. That's the official prop record. I think Caliente is more than deserved right now for the run we're on, for the season we're having. So drop a comment down below, Caliente, if you're watching right now. By the way, shout out to our sponsor for today's video, Outlier, the best sports betting tool on the market. We do have a special link down below in our description that gives you guys a 7-day free trial to check it out for yourself. If you want to make money in the sports betting landscape, guys, you got to have the proper tools. You got to have it. You got to have it. You can't fix a boat if you don't have the proper tools. I don't know why I use that example, but you can't win money in the sports betting landscape. Guys, I'm running on a little bit of sleep. Like I said, I got that puppy with a broken leg at home. Does not like to sleep with that broken leg. So running on a little bit of sleep here. But, you got to have the proper sports betting tool by your side if you want to make money in the sports betting business. And Outlier truly is the best. It consolidates everything. You guys don't have to go to multiple websites. It puts it all in one easy, convenient spot. Easy to read, easy to look through. It really is fantastic. Guys, give it a try. 7-day free trial when you use that special link down below. Thank you to Outlier for sponsoring today's video. All right, now that I'm done with my 3-minute intro to get to the picks, I'll shut the hell up and just get into the picks. Our first prop of 4 picks for today's slate. We're looking at the Diamondbacks-Marlins game. 6:40 p.m. first pitch. We're going Eduardo Rodriguez, former Boston Red Sox, over 4.5 strikeouts here. We're getting that for available everywhere. -117 on Caesars, -119 Prize Picks, -120 DraftKings, -120 BetMGM, -120 Underdog, and -125 on FanDuel. As always, guys, make sure to shop around for the best sportsbook odds available. Now, I will start off by saying this with Eduardo Rodriguez. He's only pitched 2 games this year. He was injured. He's obviously just joined the Diamondbacks this offseason. He had August 7th was the first time he pitched versus Cleveland. So he's only had 2 starts since returning. So keep that in mind. This is only his 3rd start tonight since coming back from injury this year. But the match is pretty favorable. Now, the data is mostly going to be from last season because, again, he only has 2 starts. But in his last start this season on August 13th versus Colorado, he did have 5 strikeouts and cashed this over and was a 4-3 win for Arizona. So a small sample size this year, but overall, the data is pretty good. His last 10 games dating back to last season in Detroit. 6 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, an average of 4 strikeouts per game. A couple of low games in there. But obviously, when you're playing the Dodgers, you got a matchup versus the Dodgers there. That game was his first game back. Houston. So you see his misses are against some of the better teams there. But if you go ahead and stretch the data out to the last 20 games, it's pretty good. 75% hit rate, 15 of his last 20 games. He's cashed the over, an average of 5.1 strikeouts per game. So he was really good. He tailed off a little bit. Again, the matchups have a lot to do with that. You have the Astros, the Yankees, the Dodgers. I think that's his first game back. So, matchups play a big role into why those numbers dip a little bit. But the head-to-head matchup versus Miami here is a pretty good one. We have the insights here provided by Outlier. Eduardo Rodriguez has exceeded 4.5 strikeouts in 10 of his last 13 games on the road. It's an average of 5.7 strikeouts per game average, which is pretty darn good if you ask me. Miami's batting versus left-handed pitchers here. You see the data kind of favors us here. Overall, 19th in Major League Baseball is a 22.6% strikeout rate. Pretty good. Over the last 30 games, they're also 19th at 25.8. So again, all year long, they've been a bottom half, basically bottom 10, bottom 11 team in terms of strikeout rate, which obviously is very good for us. Now, their walks per strikeouts, it has improved drastically. I mean, it's only 0.4 versus 0.3, but that 0.4 mark over the last 30 games puts them in the top 10. Not too concerned with that. Their batting average overall this year is 28th, 226. It has pretty much stayed the same. You see 25th, a little bit higher in terms of ranking, but their average is 220. Across the board, the moral of the story being an offense is not really good against a pitcher who's had some success with the strikeout number. And again, they are bottom half of the league in that strikeout percentage. So pretty good prop overall here. Again, the only real risk factor here is the fact that Rodriguez is only his third start this year, so there might be a little bit of rust. That's the only thing to keep in mind here. But for minus 120 odds, I'll go ahead and take this prop. All right, guys, for the second pick of today's slate, we're moving on to the Reds-Blue Jays game, 7:07 p.m. first pitch. We're going Carson Spears of the Cincinnati Reds over 2.5 earned runs. This is available on DraftKings for minus 130, Caesars minus 133, and BetMGM for minus 135. Over the last 5 game data, you see 4 of his last 5 games, he's cashed the over, including his last start versus Milwaukee, was pretty abysmal. 8 earned runs allowed and what was an 8-3 loss for the Reds. Not really good numbers. He's averaging 3.6 earned runs allowed over the last 5 games. That number is, of course, a little skewed due to the fact that he gave up 8 runs in that loss to Milwaukee. But even if you go ahead and stretch the data out to the last 10 games, which also dates back to last season, you see an 80% hit rate on this over, an average of 3.3 earned runs allowed. Only twice over his last 10 games has he given up less than that. Versus the Cardinals, he had 1 earned run back on June 29th of this year. And on July 29th of this year, he gave up no earned runs in what was a 7-1 win versus Chicago. This is a guy who only has 10 career starts under his belt. You see so far this year a 75% hit rate on the over. You can't even go to last 20 data because he doesn't have 20 starts under his belt. So this is a pitcher who is pretty inexperienced. He has officially 10 career starts under his belt, and the success rate has not really been there in terms of catching the under. For our sake in the over, it has been there. And going down below to the matchup splits down below, the insights provided by Outlier. Again, Carson Spears has exceeded 2.5 earned runs in 4 of his last 5 games. I already told you that. But looking at the batting versus Toronto. Now, overall, Toronto's about middle of the road. 241 batting average overall this year, 17th in the majors. About middle of the road, bottom half of the league just slightly. But the last 30 games, Toronto's batting has improved pretty drastically. They're now batting 254 over the last 30 games. That's 11th best mark in Major League Baseball. You see their OBP goes from 313 to 320, which not a massive increase, but now 13th. Their slugging percentage has improved. BABIP has a massive improvement from 21st to 10th. So across the board, they have improved their batting over the last 30 games, which obviously fares well for us. You got a Toronto offense that's kind of found their form, found their rhythm, if I may, and you have a pitcher here in Carson Spears who he's a green pitcher. He's really inexperienced. He had, for the experience that he does have, not very good. I mean, he's been shelled in a lot of his starts. He's coming off his last performance where he had 8 earned runs against Milwaukee team. That's solid, but I wouldn't call Milwaukee a juggernaut by any means necessary. So really solid prop here. Again, it's all about the odds. For minus 130, you absolutely have to take that for a matchup like this. All right, guys, moving on to the third prop of today's slate. We have the Orioles-Mets game, 7:10 p.m. first pitch. We're going Harrison Bader here, over half a strikeout. Available on Prize Picks for minus 137, DraftKings minus 150, and BetMGM for minus 150. At first glance for this one, the data may not look fantastic, but I promise you it does get better. Harrison Bader's cashed the over in just 4 of his last 10 games, not fantastic. But if we go ahead and stretch the data out a little bit to the last 20 games, the mark does improve. You see a 60% hit rate over his last 20 games, 12 of his last 20, with an average of 0.7 strikeouts per game. And so far in 2024, you see a 54% hit rate for Harrison Bader on this over. 56 out of 104 games this year, he has struck out at least once with an average of 0.73 strikeouts per game. We do have a fair amount of head-to-head data also here. You see 6 of his last 10 games versus Baltimore. He has cashed the over, an average of 0.8 strikeouts per game versus the Orioles, including last night. He did strike out once in what was a 4-3 win for the Mets. Looking down below at the key matchup stats, not a lot to go off of in terms of the head-to-head. He's only had 2 plate appearances versus Dean Kramer. He has not struck out off of him, so he actually has gotten hits, I think, off of him both times. That shows there, so not really much to go off of there. The key thing to look at here, guys, is the strikeout percentage. You see 21.2 strikeout rate for Harrison Bader. It shows red, but it's about the same. Overall, it's a pretty high strikeout mark for him. And looking at Dean Kramer, a 20.9% strikeout rate versus right-handed batters. Again, a slight decrease, yes, but it's essentially the same thing. Very minor decrease there. Overall, you got that high strikeout mark for Harrison Bader, that high strikeout mark for Dean Kramer. That's a recipe for a cash, in my opinion. Again, it's a guy whose cash this mark has a 54% hit rate this year. He's averaging .73 strikeouts per game. So I think it's a pretty solid mark. The odds kind of tell you that at -150. I know betting this straight up may not be the best option for you guys. Obviously, it's a really good prop to throw in a parlay. But if you do want to bet it straight up, you just got to throw a little bit extra money on that. But I think the odds speak for itself. The bookmakers understand this is a prop that has a pretty high chance of hitting. The implied probability is fairly high on this prop. I think it's like 60% or something like that. So, yeah, and the matchup kind of dictates that. All right, guys, and for our fourth and final prop for today's slate, I had to take a little bit of a swing here, no pun intended. I wanted a little bit of a plus money play. I didn't do one yesterday, so I wanted to throw a plus money play in here. And so here it is. We're sticking with the Orioles-Mets game. We're going Colton Cowser, though, of the Baltimore Orioles, over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. We're getting this for plus 130 on BetMGM and plus 125 on DraftKings. Word to the wise guys, hop on this a little bit sooner because just 10 minutes ago on DraftKings, this is plus 135. So the odds are increasing because people are starting to pick it. So bookmakers are going to start adjusting. So if you can get it for plus money, try to. I mean, I probably will say plus money, but it could keep going up. Again, it was just plus 135 like 10 minutes ago. It could rise up to like plus 115, plus 110. Get as much value out of this prop as you possibly can. And our first glance at data is okay on this one. 5 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, an average of 1.7 HRRs per game. He has cashed the under in 3 straight games, including last night versus the Mets. He had a hit last night, but no runs and no RBIs versus the Mets. But overall, the last 5 game data, not terrible. If we go ahead and stretch it out a little bit to the last 20 games, the marks do improve. A 65% hit rate. 13 of his last 20 games, he cashed the over. Average of 2.45 HRRs per game. And so far in 2024, a 49% hit rate on the over. 56 out of 115 games this year, he's cashed the over, an average of 1.77 HRRs per game. You do see there he had that hot streak there for a while. He has cooled off a little bit since then, but you still see a pretty good amount of green there. But yeah, his late July all the way through August was pretty impressive for the most part. And look at the head-to-head data here. Not a lot of head-to-head data, just 3 head-to-head matchups since last season. But in 2 of those last 3 matchups, he did cash the over again yesterday. He failed to, but the previous 2 meetings last year in August, he did cash the over. An average of 2 hits, runs, RBIs per game versus the Mets. Look at the insights provided by Outlier. Colton Cowser has exceeded 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs in 13 of his last 17 games on the road. Really good mark. That's one of the big things that sold me on this prop here is that data for him on the road. 13 of his last 17 road games, an average of 2.9 hits, runs, RBIs per game over that 17-game stretch. So he's been really, really well, even better than at home, way better than at home, exceptionally on the road. Now, look at the key matchup stats. He's batting .245 overall versus left-handed pitchers, a smaller sample size, but still big enough to get a pretty decent picture off of it. .232 batting average. It is a drop. Not fantastic. That's the one part of this that kind of concerns me a little bit. I'd like that number to be a little bit higher, but it's all right. Because looking at the Jose Quintana side of things for the Mets, it's a pretty favorable matchup. Overall, you see 4.26 ERA, 2.41 batting average allowed. Versus left-handed batters, we do see a pretty nice increase to 5.06 and 2.50 batting average. So pretty solid increases there. His home runs per 9 innings do also see a nice jump to 2, and his OBA is a slight increase to 3.33. So across the board, you see a lot of green there. You see that versus left-handed batters, Jose Quintana hasn't had as much success as he had versus right-handed batters this year. But it's a pretty solid matchup. It's plus money. I understand why it's plus money for a reason. Cowser's numbers versus left-handed pitchers, just 232 is not fantastic. Again, in a perfect world, that'd be a little bit higher, but it's plus money for a reason. I like the spot overall for them. Again, plus money, it's always, betting is a risk in general, guys, but plus money is an extended risk. But I'm willing to take the extended risk here, especially he hasn't cashed in a couple of games. I think he's due. So I like the spot here. All right, guys, so that's all 4 picks from today's slate. So real quick recap here. We have Colton Cowser over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. Harrison Bader over half a strikeout. Carson Spears over 2.5 earned runs. And Eduardo Rodriguez over 4.5 strikeouts. Again, this link for this page will be in the description, as well as the pinned comment to go ahead and follow along. Shout out to Outlier for making it super easy to follow along, and shout out to Outlier for sponsoring today's video. But guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. Remember, comment caliente down below if you're watching today's video. Guys, I will be back tomorrow with another MLB Player Prop video. Until then, I hope you're all winners. Have a good one, guys.